Garfield, like most properties, is no stranger to scary stuff. I mean, one doesn't have to look far to know this. You can see in the comics, the TV specials, Garfield's Scary Scavenger Hunt, Garfield Gets Real. Really, I wouldn't consider any of these necessarily scary. But that's what the category they fall under, since they have some sort of eerie element to them. So yeah, Garfield is no stranger to terror. But what if I told you there lies a Garfield movie that was so scary that it never got aired, having a very dark and unsettling tone that no studio picked it up. A film so terrifying that it turned Garfield into stone. Okay, the stone part isn't true, but what I'm talking about is Garfield Judgment Day, which was planned to be released in theaters in the late 80s to early 90s, but never made it. Instead, what we got was a picture book donning the same title as the movie, released on July 7, 1990. We'll be taking a look at the book soon, but before we get into it, let me just tell you that a studio did at one point pick it up, but later dropped it believing it to be too dark for a Garfield story. That studio being the Big D. No, not that Big D, this Big D. To think this movie could have helped Garfield join the Avengers at one point. I mean, he's already a superhero, so this could work. Anyways, I gotta tell you, I really don't know much about this book, only the premise. Being about Garfield and the gang trying to survive a pretty intense tornado. So I don't know what I'm getting myself into on this one. I'm kind of worried, to be honest. What kind of scares lies here that couldn't be made into a movie? But I shouldn't be too worried. I mean, it's a Garfield story after all, so how bad could it be? Let's crack this baby open and find out. The book starts off with Garfield waking up John so he can serve him and Odie their breakfast. You also get a look at John's other neighbors doing their morning routine as well, with their own pets. The Rosinis having to deal with their noisy racket from their 2 terriers, Al and Alfredo, and plus from their 5 children. And we also got Ellie, the old neighborhood grouch, and his dog Barney. So far, everything seems to be normal. Except John from this angle, he looks more squished and short than his more lanky self. But, it's cool. The book really starts kicking off in the next page where Garfield, Odie, and the rest of the animals start feeling a sense of dread. Like something big is about to go down in their area. This being the upcoming tornado I mentioned earlier. This sense of danger leads Garfield and Odie to go to the pets' weekly meeting held in an old abandoned theater, to tell the other pets about their impending doom. The other animals also sensing this feels like they should do something about it, but don't really have any sort of plan to deal with the threat. But no need to fear because Garfield comes up with a brilliant idea. His plan being the animals to talk to their owners in order to lead them to their meeting place, believing it to be a secure enough area to protect them all. Sounds like a good plan, right? Well, there's just one problem. Speaking to humans will break a sacred pact held by all animals in the world. The animals worry for a bit about destroying this important pact, but Garfield is able to convince the animals into talking to their owners just this one time in order to save them. Everyone agrees to this and go back to their owners to tell them about the upcoming threat. Mr. Rosini is shocked by his dog talking, Ellie is more amused than anything, and John just straight up faints. Which, I'm sorry John, but I'm calling bullshit on this one. You're telling me you saw your cat walk on 2 legs, use its paw like hands, express a wide array of emotions, and yet you're surprised that your cat can talk? John, your cat eat lasagna for Pete's sakes. The garlic would have killed him by now. Why are you so surprised that your cat can talk? John, Jesus. You tall glass of handsomeness, what is your problem? Get a hold of yourself. Whatever. Let's just get back to the story. Everyone is able to convince their owners to leave the theater, except for Ellie, who isn't budging from his home, believing that his home and memories in it is all he really has and nothing else, choosing to take the tornado head on. Barney, being the loyal dog he is, also chooses to stay. So we basically have 2 characters that are willing to die in a Garfield book, which is kind of heavy if you ask me. And the heaviness doesn't stop there. Arlene is revealed to be a stray, strays being looked down upon in the pet community. So Arlene makes the decision to withstand the upcoming disaster, being too scared of what they might think of her. So yeah, we got 3 characters that could die in this book, which is pretty tough to bear in a Garfield story. Characters facing death because of their own tragic circumstances? Kind of dark if you ask me. But, nothing a little lasagna could fix? Nah, even lasagna couldn't fix this. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet, and just see where this story takes us. When Garfield and his family return to the theater safe and sound, Garfield notices that his friend Arlene is missing. Garfield starts calling out her name in desperation to find her, and Raoul, this freakishly large cat, hears Garfield shouts and tell him that Arlene isn't there, telling Garfield that Arlene is an alley cat. Garfield, knowing that his friend is in danger, goes back outside to the storm in order to find her and bring her back to safety, bearing the harsh elements outside. Luckily, Garfield is able to locate her, but the tornado is getting too strong, that it forces them both to stay in a trash can for their own protection. This part is kinda grim and is not looking too good for Garfield and Arlene, but both of them try to make light of their situation by cracking jokes, even though they know they're in deep trouble. But lucky for them, the wind takes them both to the theater door. where John's able to take them both inside. Now we're at the climax of the story. The tornado was now upon them. Windows shatter, water pipes burst. Everyone is in shock and horror as things get worse and worse. And then, blackness falls upon them. Really, no one comes out with real harm. And by the end of the day, everyone is safe and sound. And the pets stop talking afterwards, keeping their sacred pact. But I know what you guys are thinking. What about Ollie? Well, he actually survived miraculously, and decides to not make another dumb decision like that again, since he realized that he could have lost the only thing he loves, his dog Barney. So yeah, by the end of the book, everyone has a deeper appreciation and understanding of each other. Ollie showing more affection to his dog Barney, John rejoicing that his two pets and himself are safe and sound, and Arlene realizing that her friend Garfield doesn't care that she's an alley cat, and only cares about her as a person. So, not a bad way to end a story. I'm kind of surprised on how Garfield's story was able to handle dark concepts like death and disasters in a pretty mature and entertaining way. Really, I like this book, and I don't think it really strays from the Garfield formula. I mean, Garfield still likes to eat, he still makes quips, and there's a sense of family and caring that Garfield tends to show from time to time in this book. Seriously, this story is pretty good. Maybe the original script was darker than the book itself, but come on, there's no reason this movie couldn't have been made. There are plenty of kids' films that deal with heavy topics, like The Land Before Time, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Brave Little Toaster, and American Tail. Films that released near the time frame of when this movie should have been out. And hey, some of these are even Disney films now that I've noticed. Could it be that Disney purposely sabotaged Garfield Judgment Day? Sounds far-fetched, I know, but just hear me out. What if Disney knew this movie would have been so successful that it would have cemented Garfield as a world icon that everyone knew? I mean, Garfield is still popular today, don't get me wrong, but this movie could have made Garfield more popular to the level of Mickey Mouse. Disney, probably knowing this might happen, decided to cut the whole thing down before Garfield became a worldwide phenomenon. Think about it, what do the American people relate to more? A fat lazy cat or a happy-go-lucky mouse? But that's just my crackpot theory. Anyway, this movie isn't the worst thing that happened to Garfield. I mean, for crying out loud, the first Garfield special, Here Comes Garfield, has Garfield seeing his best friend Odie about to be put to sleep. And the special Garfield in His 9 Lives has Garfield dying multiple times. Also, let's just not forget how cynical Garfield can be.
It says here, a video store is a great place to meet chicks.
Can we get Old Yeller? I love movies with happy endings.
Where are we? What happened? Are we having fun yet?
The funniest thing happened, Garfield. Odie was licking my feet and made us roll down the hill into the lake.
Hysterical. Hey, Odie, why don't you go play with something poisonous?
Happy birthday, whoop-dee-doo, whoop-dee-doo.
People who sing like that should be drug out into the street and shot.
Really, I just don't know why this movie couldn't have been made. It sucks too that a lot of this movie had been already worked on. All of the voice acting was recorded, including several songs, and there was also an estimate of 15 minutes worth of animation completed as well, before Disney pulled the plug on the whole thing. And even though there's all this work done for the movie, all I could find was just this one song that was supposed to be in the film, titled We Got It Good and That Ain't Bad, sung by Lou Rawls and Desiree Goyette, which can be found in the TV special Happy Birthday Garfield, released on May 17, 1988. Both Lou Rawls and Desiree Goyette having done other songs for Garfield. And I just gotta say, these two singers, they're just fantastic. They always make me happy whenever a song is played by them in the Garfield specials. And this song is no different. Gosh, I just love these songs. They just do so much for the TV special. And besides these two fantastic singers, we also got Lorenzo Music, the voice of Garfield, The Temptations, B.B. Kings, and just so much more. Just about everyone that has done music for Garfield really just gives it their all, and really adds liveliness to the cartoon. Some of my favorites are This Is the Night, Check Your Paw, Here Comes Garfield, The Claws, Home Again. If you ever need a reason to watch the Garfield specials, this is just one of them. They're really good to hear. And besides the music though, the Garfield specials, and lack of a better word, are just special. I mean, they got good jokes, clever writing, and a good story to boot. I mean, going off Garfield around the 80s, I say Garfield Judgment Day could have been something really special. But sadly, the movie never made it to the big screen, and later what we got were two pretty mediocre live-action Garfield movies that really don't make me feel good. I'm just kind of disappointed we didn't get to see this, because really comic strip movies adaptations are mostly bad for the most part. Except for the Peanuts movie, because that movie is Peanut through and through. So it's just kind of a shame that we didn't get this movie. But who knows, maybe this movie might come to fruition one day. Maybe Garfield will come back again to the big screen. I don't know for sure, but I do hope so. But until then, I'll be eating my lasagna waiting for his return.